Yo, what's up, people? This is the Cheburkov Strizh, and this is my first impressions video of this knife. Now, I'm gonna do a full review in a couple of months or maybe even a year, like always. I usually take a lot of time before I do a complete video on a knife, but I just wanted to take a little bit of time and basically talk about the things that I have noticed about this knife right now. Now, the Cheburkov Strizh is an interesting knife. It has that clean Russian design language. It reminded me a lot about, like, I always thought about this knife like it was the Russian Zebenza, okay? Now that I have it, I can clearly say it's not a Russian Zebenza. It's something different. It's more like a TRM Atom, basically, just a Russian version of that. Very clean design, full flat ground blade, nice and thin behind the edge. You can get it in a bunch of variations, even more variations than I think a lot of other knife manufacturers usually give you. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. Now, the knife has a very thin construction. We have a 3mm blade stock and a 0.12 to 0.15 behind the edge thickness. Now that is super slicey. So the edge of this knife was not the sharpest that I have ever seen. I'm usually used to a little bit more sharper edges from Cheburkov knives. They usually, all of them are pretty thin, and their edges are usually pretty hair popping sharp. Now this one is just rough shaving, I would say. Here are my other Cheburkov knives. This is the Scout and this is the Voron, which means the Raven. And yeah, here is the Scout. So as you can see, I'm a fan of Cheburkov knives, to say the least. And yeah, this knife I was not that much interested at all when I got into Cheburkov knives. I always thought their flippers are the really cool stuff. Now, as I grew older, I realized that I don't like flippers that much, and I actually prefer thumb studs, and I prefer simple, clean designs, work knives with thin cutting edges. Basically, that's the point where I'm at in my knife collection. I just like knives that perform well, and this knife definitely performs well. I think they used to run on washers, now they run on bearings, which I didn't even realize when I ordered it. And the cool thing about Cheburkov knives is if you have a dealer that allows you to, you can basically order the version that you really want. So you can get anything from titanium with carbon fiber or wooden inlays, or even exotic materials. You can get full carbon fiber handle scales, you can get micarta, you can get G10, you can get every steel you want. Basically, Cheburkov uses all the Bowler steels, so Elmex, Neolox, M390. You can get Russian D2, you can get D2 laminate, and you can also get Damast steel. So Damast steel and also Sladinox Damast steel, which is this one right here. It's a stainless Damast steel. It looks pretty beautiful, and they also do a bunch of variations in the pattern in this one. So you can basically order almost every steel you like, unless I don't think they do a lot of the crucible steels. They mainly use Bowler steels because it's probably a little bit easier to get for them, being that they are located in Russia. Now, the Strizh runs on a liner lock. It's a pretty thin liner lock, actually. One thing that I don't like about this knife, and one thing that differentiates it quite a bit from a Zebenza. Here is my Zebenza 31 that I really like to use. At this point in my life, I just like to buy expensive knives and use them pretty hard, because I don't know. I think I get a lot more joy out of them than. Don't want to say that I don't like inexpensive knives. I have some pretty good ones, but yeah, as you can see, here's the difference. Thick frame lock versus thin liner lock. Definitely prefer a thick frame lock to a thin liner lock, but we will see in the future how this knife holds up. A really good benefit of this knife to, I guess, the Sebenza is it's actually thinner ground, and for the people that prefer flat grinds to hollow grinds, it's also a little bit better. Now, in terms of dimensions, if we put both of these knives above each other, you can see that the Strizh has more cutting edge and a little bit more blade length, but yet is shorter in the handle, meaning this knife is a little bit better balanced in terms of handle to blade ratio, I guess. But both of these knives have a stellar design and are pretty cool. Also, if you noticed, both of these knives has the thumb stud on only one side. And the downside of a Sebenza is that you can only open it with your right hand. Basically, it's not really possible to, you really have to, it's not really possible to open this left-handed, or with your offhand. If you have a left-handed Sebenza, it's the same way around. Now, with the Strizh, you can actually front flip this knife. So, because the G10 is so light, you can front flip it right or left side. So you can always open this knife with the other hand as well. Let's move these guys out of the way. Now, the cutting edge on this knife was not super symmetrical. Usually Cheburkov knives are pretty damn symmetrical. As I told you before, it was pretty thin behind the edge, and the edge though was not perfect. Now, that being said, it was very sharp still. It still shaves, it's just more of a rough shaving sharpness. Now, because the geometry is so thin though, yesterday, for example, I did some cooking with this knife, and just because of the thinness of this knife, even though it lacks in the sharpness, the thinness alone made it a super good slicer. So it was really, really comfortable to cut with. And these handle scales, they are so well contoured. There is no sharp corner in this. It almost feels like it's three-dimensional, and it is a little bit three-dimensional. There is a lot of contouring going on, and it's not slick at all, even though it's quite polished. Really comfortable thumb stud. So this is definitely a using knife. You get the standard Cheburkov pocket clip, the titanium clip that you see on a lot of their knives, just in various, in different variations, basically. These are not the best pocket clips. All milled titanium pocket clips are not my favorite, because I think spring pocket clips are still better, but they look good, they're clean and simple, and they work. Yeah, in this case we have an open construction. You can get this knife with a closed construction. Like I said, you can do anything you want with this knife. In this case we have a beautiful, not even sure, but it's kind of a blasting. It's not a stone wash. Must be like a sand blasting or something like that. Very beautiful finish. Nylox 2 steel in this case. Now, I had to look it up because when I ordered this knife, I said I want Elmex or Nylox, and they gave me Nylox. They gave me Nylox 2, and I didn't really know. Nylox 2 is basically the same as Nylox Plus, and it's a newer version of Nylox. Has more chromium and a little bit more niobium, I think. Yeah. So we have 0.70% carbon, 0.60% vanadium, and 14.5% chromium, and a little bit of molybdenum as well. So this knife is quite stainless, and also 0.80 niobium. Yeah, interesting to see how Nylox will hold up. A lot of people like Nylox steel. They say it takes a clean edge and everything. I don't have a lot of experience with Nylox yet, and with Nylox 2 I don't have any experience at all. Now, the best thing about this knife is probably the weight. If you don't order it in titanium, but with G10, by the way, the construction goes like this. You have the liner on one side, on the other side is completely made of your material that you chose. So super lightweight construction, and this shows in the weight. We have 90 grams, exactly 90 grams in terms of the weight. Super lightweight for a 9 centimeter blade length. Basically the same size as a Benza. A little bit shorter overall, I think, but more cutting edge and a thinner grind. And a really good heat treatment usually. Cheburkov knives, they are known to do good heat treatment stuff. Some of the blades are forged even, and I think they do cold hardening as well. Now, yeah, everything else that I haven't mentioned yet, I will mention in my review sometime in the future. Don't know when this is gonna be. Oh yeah, the action, by the way, as you can see, super clean action. I mean, like I said, it runs on bearings. Yeah, I think the detent is a little bit too light. Like, it's a little bit too easy to actuate the knife. If we do the shake test, we can actually throw it out of the, yeah, throw it out of there. So this is something I don't like about Cheburkov knives. Some of them have a really hard, not really hard, but pretty good detent where you can shake the blade out, like on this one, and others are pretty light. Yeah. So yeah, there you can have a look at some of the titanium scales. I always wanted to do more videos on Cheburkov knives, but I never got around to. But we will do so in the future, maybe this autumn or something. I don't know yet. But Cheburkov knives are beautiful, and the best thing about them, this version right here with the Nyalog steel and the G10 costs 280 bucks. Now that's a lot of money, but if you compare that to any other high-end knife, and especially compare it to knives that are this thinly ground and that well heat treated and that well built, that's not a lot of money at all. And it comes out of Russia as well. So I don't know, it's not a Chinese production knife. Yeah, I'm stoked about this. The titanium versions obviously cost a little bit more, but still more than less of half the price than a Benza costs now. And I think this is a good alternative if you want something with a no-nonsense blade shape and a super nice cutting geometry. And also, if you have a cool dealer, you can even order the version that you really like. So, yeah. So that's it for this video, guys. Just wanted to show this off. Oh, we do a cut test as well. Not sure if we did already do a paper test. Let's see if we can do the waves. Yeah, not the best edge that I have seen. It could be a little bit sharper, but we will fix this in just a second. And yeah, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see each other in another video. Goodbye, people.